You're not falling asleep. Not yet. You're stepping backward through time, through layers of mist, memory, and music. You pass through the soft breath of centuries, past stories written in feathers, obsidian, and gold leaf, until you arrive at a city floating on water. Tenochtitlan, a place so beautiful it made the invaders weep, and so doomed that even the gods turned their gaze away in this gentle journey. You'll witness not a single battle, but the slow unraveling of an empire, like a tapestry unthreading. Beneath the moonlight, you'll hear the final drums at Templemere. You'll watch the sky darken as ships from the horizon creep inward like a fever. You'll feel the sickness settle in the lungs of 1,000 souls, and hear the silence left behind when the old gods were no longer fed. You'll walk beside Moctezuma in his final nights. You'll stand inside the sacred temple of Quetzalcoatl as the walls begin to crumble, and you'll stay long enough to see something rise from the ashes. A new city built on ancient bones. This is not just history. It is memory. It is dream. It is the quiet, crumbling lullaby of an empire fading gently into sleep. So take a breath. Let your thoughts slow and your spirit soften, because tonight we begin the long, soft telling of how the Aztec Empire fell, not all at once, but piece by piece, like petals drifting from a marigold into still and sacred water. Now close your eyes, the story waits. You hear them again, soft, steady, like a second heartbeat. The drums, not loud, not proud, just present, carried on the dusk wind from far across the calm waters of Lake Texcoco. They speak not to the ears, but to the bones. You are standing beneath twilight skies, wrapped in a white cloak woven of silence and smoke. The scent of copal fills the air, rich and ancient like stories whispered through stone. Tenochtitlan, your city, rests gently on the mirrored lake, her temples tall like prayers made of obsidian. Tonight, the high priests prepare the rites. You feel it in the stillness, in the hush before the chant. The city holds its breath, and from the sacred steps of Templemere, where blood and stars once danced together, you see the fires rise. Each flame a voice, each spark a memory, a people watching the heavens for answers. And for omens, there were rumors, even then, of pale strangers from the sea, of boats with wings like butterflies, and gods with beards of light. But here, in this moment, none of that matters. Only the rhythm remains, only the slow beat of what has always been dot. So, before you settle too deeply into this journey, before you close your eyes completely, I want to gently ask something. If you're enjoying this so far, please tap that subscribe button, only if it feels right, and leave me a comment below. Tell me where you're listening from and what time it is there, because voices across the world are weaving this moment with you. And tell me, where and when are you listening from tonight? Now back to the city of bridges and clouds, back to the time when Tlaloc's rain kissed temple stones, when the air was warm with marigolds, and no one yet knew the name courts. You return to the edge of the canal. You dip your fingers into the water, and for just a second, you feel the tremble, a ripple not from the wind, but from the shape of what's to come. The drums soften, the stars blink open, and your breath becomes part of the silence. Sleep now is near. You are standing at the edge of the world. The sky is pale, and the sea whispers like silk against the shore. Before you, the horizon stretches, endless, soft, and blue, and then a shape, just a speck at first, then another, then many dot white. Sails rise from the sea like wings, strange billowing clouds tethered to wood and will. They move slowly, as if they are not bound by the same winds you know. They are not birds, they are not clouds, they are something else. You are not alone on the shore. Beside you, fishermen set down their nets. Elders whisper prayers. Children stare with wide, unblinking eyes. No one speaks aloud, but everyone remembers the stories. The old ones. The ones told round fires in the hush of night. Stories of white-skinned gods, of return, of endings. You feel it, don't you? That strange shiver down the back of your spirit. That quiet certainty that something has arrived, something not entirely of this earth. The ships grow nearer. They carry men in iron and cloth, with eyes that do not blink long at the sun. They carry steel and thunder, but they also carry awe and fear. Word spreads like wind through maize. In the market of Tenochtitlan, voices rise in curious panic. They've come, some say, as Quetzalcoatl said they would. They've returned, others whisper to claim what was theirs. But what they do not say, what no one dares to say, is that it may already be too late. You move with the current of the city, through flower-draped streets, past dancers in gold and turquoise, past merchants and mothers and masked priests with voices made of honey and ash. The city is not quiet, but somewhere inside you, something is. You feel time folding in on itself, like the gods are holding their breath. When the Spanish finally land, it is not with war, not at first. They smile, they gift, they kneel, and yet every gesture feels rehearsed, like a dream meant to mask a deeper shape. Moctezuma watches from his throne of carved obsidian. He is no fool. He knows this isn't just a greeting, it's an unraveling. Still, he opens the gates. Still, he offers gold and flowers and hospitality deeper than the lake itself. Because prophecy is heavy, because history is watching, and because even emperors fear being wrong. You walk now behind them, behind Court S and his men as they cross the causeways into the floating city. You hear the hiss of water under their horses. You see the way their eyes widen at the towers, the temples, the markets, the music. This is not what they expected. This is no village. This is a city of poetry and stars. A city where every step is aligned with the heavens. A city where calendars sing and gods wear the faces of jaguars. And yet, as the Spaniards marvel, they still reach for their swords when the drums sound too loud. They do not understand that music here is a language. That fire speaks, that flowers bleed meaning. You follow them into the palace, into the courtyards with fountains that whisper in Nahuatl. You feel the strangeness bloom like fog between the two worlds. The guests do not leave, and the hosts do not know how to ask them to. Moctezuma listens at night to his priests. He touches the stones of his ancestors and feels them pulse with warning. But the signs are murky. The gods have gone quiet. You sit by the temple steps as the sun begins to fall. The shadows grow long. And far off, beyond the lake, beyond the valley, the white sails rest like ghosts. Still waiting, watching, you feel the city exhale, not in peace, but in something closer to sorrow, a gentle sorrow, like when the first leaf falls, like when the wind changes just enough to remind you that summer is over. History has entered the city, not loudly, not violently, but like mist curling beneath a door. You close your eyes and listen to the wind over water, to the silence between languages, to the quiet ticking of fate, and as night falls, the stars return, but they do not look the same. Not tonight. Night in Tenochtitlan feels like no other. The lake hushes its waves, as if the water itself dares not disturb the dark. Torches flicker along the causeways like stars fallen to earth, and high above the city, the Templo Mayor looms against a violet sky. You are drifting now, through the corridors of the palace. The walls hum with the weight of time, of prayers once whispered in the old tongue, of footsteps belonging to kings who have long turned to dust. Here, stone remembers, and within, behind a veil of embroidered cotton, Moctezuma does not sleep. He lies still, wrapped in cloth and incense smoke, beneath carvings of eagle and serpent. His brow is smooth, but his spirit is troubled. He dreams, though he does not want to. He dreams not of gods, but of mirrors, polished obsidian mirrors, smooth, black, endless, and in them fire. You drift deeper into his vision. You see great temples crumbling as if made of sand. You see warriors with feathers burning from their backs. You see children without names, calling for ancestors who no longer answer. And above it all, ships, white and endless. You want to wake him. You want to tell him it is only a dream. But even you, even now, know it is not. He opens his eyes. The chamber is still, but the dream clings to him like damp cloth. He rises slowly, and the silence follows. There is a room in the palace where flames are fed with offerings, where the gods are consulted, where jade and bone and blood mingle in sacred rhythm. He goes there now, barefoot and quiet. The priests are already waiting, their faces painted, their eyes low. They have seen the same omens, the stars spinning backward, the lightning that cracked the sacred temple though the sky was clear, the owl that cried like a woman. Everything speaks, and nothing comforts. Moctezuma listens. He listens with the weight of centuries pressing down on his chest. He is not just a man, he is the spine of the empire, and spines are not allowed to bend. But you see the bend tonight. You see the moment where doubt slips through the cracks of his armor, because he has welcomed strangers into the heart of his world, because they do not leave, because they speak of gods, but act like kings, because the gold they were gifted, the gold that glittered like sun on the lake, they melted it, turned it to bars, cold, square, silent as if beauty had no language worth hearing. You step into the quiet night air above. The moon glows softly, its reflection broken on the lake's rippling skin. You hear distant laughter, muffled, strange. Spanish voices, carried over the water. They sound drunk, or maybe just lost. You pass a garden of night-blooming flowers. They open only in darkness, offering scent instead of color. Their petals are pale, their fragrance thick with memory. Moctezuma walks alone now, along the edges of the sacred pool. He looks into the water and sees his own reflection. But behind it, the mirror again. Always the mirror. It shows not what is, but what will be. And the image there is not peace. He thinks of the words he has not said, of the warnings he buried beneath diplomacy, of the warriors waiting hearts hot, blades sharp, and of the people who look to him and see a god, but forget he is also a man. You wonder, what would you do? Would you send them away? Would you strike first? Would you wait and hope the dream dissolves before dawn? He does what he always does. He listens to the gods, to the sky. to the silence, but the silence says nothing tonight. In the city below, candles flicker in windows. A lullaby drifts from a cradle. A market stall closes with a sigh. And somewhere, far from the palace, a woman weaves a cloak of turquoise in grief, though she does not yet know why. You drift away from the emperor now, past the guarded halls, past the ancient stones, toward the lake. The canoes rock gently, tied like dreams to the edge of sleep, and in the center of it all, the city breathes, still alive, still proud, still unaware that the future has already stepped into its house. The night deepens, the sky turns darker, the stars blink slower, and you, traveler of echoes, feel yourself sinking into sleep, not fleeing the sorrow, but holding it close, because even sorrow can be sacred, even endings can be soft. A breeze brushes your cheek. It smells of crushed flowers, of wet stone, of something ancient remembering itself. And far above, in his high chamber, Moctezuma finally closes his eyes. But sleep does not come, only silence, and mirrors. It begins with a scent, petrichor wet earth, and the faint sweetness of stone warmed by sun. Rain falls softly over the rooftops of Tenochtitlan, tapping on reed mats and temple walls like 1,000 whispered fingers. You are beneath a wide awning, its woven edge fluttering like a serpent's tongue in the wind. Around you, the city hushes not in fear, not yet, but in that peculiar stillness that only rain can summon. As if even the gods are listening, the feathers begin to fall. Bright, delicate, weightless, Quetzal, feathers, green as jungle leaves, iridescent with shifting blues and golds, caught in the breath of the storm. Some fall from the ceremonial garlands that decorate doorways. Others are dislodged from warrior cloaks, drying in the wind. But one seems to fall from nowhere at all. It lands near your feet, still perfect, a single glistening stroke of color on wet stone. You bend, slowly, and lift it. It feels like holding a story in your hand, a sacred fragment of something much larger than yourself. And as the rain begins to soak the great square, the people come out with their faces tilted skyward, not to hide, not to run, but to feel it, because rain is a blessing, and blessings do not last forever. You hear the faint call of flutes from a nearby shrine, notes that hover between joy and mourning, between the earth and the heavens. Somewhere, nearby, dancers sway beneath the downpour, their arms raised, their faces painted like dawn and blood. And still, feathers fall, but not just from headdresses now, not just from garlands. They fall from birds that no longer sing, birds found dead in gardens, in temples, in the folds of royal robes. Too many to be chance, too strange to be ignored. The priests whisper of omens, of offerings refused, of spirits. Disturbed, you follow the curve of the temple path, stepping lightly, as if the stones beneath your feet remember the prayers once spoken over them at the base of a sacred tree. You see something new, a child barefoot, wide-eyed, holding a bowl of maize. She offers it to the air, though no one has asked her to. She has heard her mother weep in sleep. She has seen the worry in her father's jaw. She has watched the strangers walk through the markets with their heavy shoes and hollow gazes. No one taught her this offering, but something inside her knew. As the maize slips from her fingers into the damp soil, she closes her eyes, and above her, thunder rolls gently across the lake in the palace. Moctezuma stands at a window, watching the downpour. He holds no umbrella. He wears no cloak. The rain falls on his skin like memory. He thinks of the times before white sails, before uneasy gifts, before the glint of steel that was not for ceremony. He remembers walking this very path as a boy, before the weight of jade and crown turned his steps careful and heavy. Now he watches his people walk through the rain, some with baskets, some with drums, all with questions he cannot answer. In the marketplace, a Spanish soldier sneezes violently. He clutches his chest. He wipes his mouth with the back of his hand. The vendors stare. The children pause their games. Something has changed. The rain masks the early signs, the tiredness, the cough, the small red mark just beneath the collarbone. But in time, the signs will multiply, the fever, the trembling, the silence, and still the feathers fall. You drift toward the lake. The water is dappled now, every drop a circle widening out into the past. Canoes rock gently, lashed together like a family. A fisherman sings softly to himself, words older than empire, a lullaby meant for the gods of rain and harvest. He sings with his eyes closed, as if to protect himself from what he already senses. Far off, across the silver-grey horizon, lightning touches the mountains. Just once, and then the sky closes again. You close your eyes, too. The rain kisses your eyelids. It smells like stone and sky, like something ending, and something else waiting to begin. Back in the temples, priests gather in circles. They burn incense that curls upward in twisting shapes, serpents, birds, breath. They chant softly, and the sound wraps around you like a woven shawl of language and longing. They ask for guidance. They ask for strength. But most of all, they ask for time. Time to understand. Time to prepare. Time to make sense of a world turning too fast. But the gods do not answer with words, only with rain and feathers. A woman stands outside her home, cupping her hands. In them, a cluster of blossoms crushed by the storm, but still fragrant. She presses them to her chest and waits. You lie down now, beneath a woven roof, wrapped in the scent of earth and wet cotton. You hear the sound of rain on palm thatch, the drip, drip, drip of history melting into myth. You breathe in, and as you exhale, you see the feather again, that first one, glistening. You hold it lightly between your fingers, like a memory you're afraid to crush. Outside, the storm is softening, but the silence left in its wake feels unfamiliar, not empty, just changed. And somewhere in the night, another bird stops singing. It came softly, not with thunder, nor with drums, nor with the warnings of priests. No omens painted the sky, no feathers fell to herald its arrival. Just a man, a single man, pale and sweating, huddled in a shaded corner of a Spanish camp. He coughed into his blanket, and in that breath, the city began to change. You do not see it at first. You walk through the causeways with the morning mist rising off the lake, your bare feet pressing gently into the damp stone. The chinampas shimmer with green. Vendors open stalls with hands, still warm from sleep. Everything looks the same, and yet not quite. A woman wraps her shawl tighter around her shoulders, even though the morning is warm. A boy wipes his nose again and again with the same cloth. A merchant looks pale beneath the bronze of his cheeks. You feel it, but you do not name it. Not yet in the temple courtyards, incense still burns. The priests still sing, but their voices sound more fragile, thinner, as if something unseen is pulling at their breath. You pass a group of dancers preparing for a celebration. They tie bells to their ankles. They laugh softly, but one of them pauses. His hands tremble as he fastens a feather to his armband. He says nothing, but his eyes are clouded in the heart of Tenochtitlan. Beneath the canopy of market stalls, the sickness finds its rhythm. It moves not with force, but with patience, touch to touch, breath to breath. You step into a healer's home. It smells of bitter herbs and clay pots heated by coal. A young girl lies on a woven mat, her face flushed, her breath short. The healer whispers chants. She places a cool stone to the girl's head. She sprinkles water mixed with ground obsidian, but the girl does not stir. Outside, a crowd gathers around a storyteller. He weaves myths into music, telling of the eagle who carried the sun in its talons. Children lean close, eyes wide. One of them coughs, a dry, sharp sound that cuts the rhythm in half. The storyteller stumbles in his words, then continues, but the spell has cracked. You walk toward the palace. The stone walls rise quiet and proud, holding centuries in their silence. But inside, fear has begun to whisper. Moctezuma listens to his advisors. Some say it is poison, others a curse from forgotten gods. Still others blame the strangers who walk their streets with iron feet and foreign prayers. He listens, and he says little, because he has seen it now, to dot not in visions, but in faces. The man who swept the courtyard lies in bed, his skin marked with boils, the color of dusk. The noblewoman who once embroidered robes now cries in fever, calling for her. Mother, though she has long passed, it spreads quickly, too quickly, and still no one calls it what it is. Because there is no word in the old tongue for this kind of fire. You sit beside an old man in a garden of flowering agave. He hums softly as he carves a small jaguar from wood dot. You ask him if he is afraid. He looks to the sky. No, he says, not afraid, but I think the gods are dreaming too deeply, and no one dares to wake them. He places the jaguar in your hand. It is smooth, unfinished. You hold it gently, as if you might hurt it just by knowing what comes next. By twilight, the first bodies are wrapped in woven mats and carried to the edge of the lake. There are no trumpets, no great procession, just silence, and breath that does not return. You watch from a distance. The air feels thick, not with smoke, not with rain, but with something invisible, heavy as sorrow, slow as dusk. At the temple, steps, a mother kneels. Her child lies still in her lap. She does not cry. She hums. The song is simple. A lullaby. You've heard it before, on warm nights, under stars, when everything still felt whole. But now it sounds like a farewell. The priests come. They bless the child with water and maize. They speak words to guide the spirit home. But even their voices sound tired. You walk through the gardens that once bloomed with hummingbirds and fire lilies. Some flowers are still open. Others have wilted. You feel time slowing, as if the city is holding its breath, as if the stones themselves are listening for something that no longer comes. In the Spanish quarters, they whisper too, they did not bring this sickness on purpose, but they brought it all the same. They watch the city fade, and still they march. Forward. For them, it is an opportunity. For you, it is a heartbreak. You lie down near the lake as night falls. The water is still. Not even the frogs sing. A feather drifts past, dull, damp. No color this time. Only weight. You close your eyes. You hear coughing far off. You hear a rattle of stone jars being opened. Medicine or prayer or both. You hear the wind move through reeds like a voice trying to speak, and you know the sickness has entered not with violence, but with certainty. A quiet conqueror, a ghost inside the lungs of the living, and no temple is high enough to keep it out. Still, the city breathes. Still, the people endure. Still, the moon rises, silver and slow, watching the lake like a mother afraid to wake her child. You breathe in, you hold the breath, and as you exhale, the city fades. Just a little more, but not completely, not yet. The lake is quiet, so still it looks like polished stone. The reflections are perfect, too perfect. Sky and city, moon and torchlight. All ripple only when the wind dares to sigh. You walk along the edge, bare feet tracing the soft curve of the causeway. It's just before dawn. The mist clings to your skin like breath, and the water holds the city in its mirrored hands. But something has changed. You feel it in the silence. Not peaceful, but hollow, as if the lake has swallowed too many songs. You hear oars in the distance, slow, measured. A canoe glides toward the shore, carrying bundles wrapped in white cloth. They do not speak. The rowers, their faces are streaked with soot. One hand on the paddle, the other resting gently on the burden between them. You step aside as they pass. The cloth does not move. The shape beneath it is small, too small. You do not ask where they are going. You already know. Across the lake, the burial fires burn. Not bright, not roaring. Just steady, like tired stars. The city of Tenochtitlan is still beautiful. Even now, you see the painted murals, faded only slightly. The stepped pyramids, still. Standing against the sky, the marketplace is open at dawn. Fewer people now, but still they come. They sell honey cakes and clay dolls, obsidian blades and dried herbs. They exchange silence more than coin. You see a woman with a painted face gently pour cacao into a steaming bowl. Her hands do not shake, but her eyes search every face that passes. You drift through the market like mist, not touching, only feeling, and everywhere you pass, the shadows seem longer, not just the ones cast by sun, the other kind, the kind that trail behind sorrow. From the great palace, a new decree. Courts demands more food, more laborers, more gold, and still the sickness grows. Moctezuma watches from his high window. He no longer walks among his people. They say he fears them now, or perhaps they fear what he has become. To some, he is no longer emperor, only the man who welcomed the ghosts. To others, he is still sacred, still the spine of the world. But to himself, he is quiet. You feel him watching the lake as you do, as if searching the mirror for something that no longer reflects. The priests burn more incense. The smoke curls around the temples like old vines. They whisper chants that used to steady the stars, but the stars do not answer. Neither does the wind. You sit beneath a fig tree near the water's edge. A child walks past, leading a dog too thin for its age. The child hums, a soft song made of fragments. The words are hard to hear, but the feeling that you understand loss, and yet the hum continues. Like a candle flickering against the dark. Across the lake, another canoe drifts. This one carries men in armor. Their oars cut the water without reverence. They point toward the southern causeway. They speak of strategy, of control, but the lake hears their words and does not respond. It only reflects, The people whisper now in doorways, in alleys, in courtyards, too narrow for soldiers to enter. They speak of rebellion, of the old gods, of fire in the night. Some say the time has come. Others say it has passed. But no one forgets that the lake is listening. At dusk, you find a woman kneeling beside the water. She offers petals of marigold, each one kissed with sap and song. She presses her forehead to the stone and weeps not loudly, but deep to her tears join the lake, and the mirror ripples. You follow the path back toward the city's heart, past the homes with woven doors, past the statues with worn faces, past the walls painted in stories. You see them, the shadows, moving where people once danced, lingering near fountains where lovers once met. Not ghosts, not yet. Just memory, alive enough to ache. As night falls, torches light the causeways, and the lake glows gold. You see the outline of the mountains, soft as shoulders under a blanket. You see stars blinking into view, unsure whether to shine. You sit by the edge and listen to the splash of a single paddle, to the whisper of cloth drying on stone, to the voice of a man reciting names, all the ones who've passed this week. He speaks them slowly, one by one, each name a candle in the dark, each name a breath returned to the lake. You lie back, the coolness of the earth pressing gently into your spine. Your body feels heavy, but your spirit floats. Above you, the stars finally decide. They shine not brightly, not joyfully, but enough. The lake reflects them. The city reflects them. You reflect them, and though the shadows still stretch long, something else is here to dot stillness. Not the stillness of fear, not of defeat, but of reverence. The stillness of a people watching the world change, and choosing still to sing. A boat passes in the dark, its lanterns swinging gently. It casts a trail of light across the mirrored water, then fades into the mist. You close your eyes. You breathe in the scent of earth and fire and rain. You let the sounds drift into the distance, oars, chants, soft voices under stone walls. The lake no longer mirrors what it sees. It remembers, and so do you. You wake to the sound of metal striking stone, a steady rhythm, sharp, unfeeling. It echoes across the great square, where once only drums and prayer had lived. Now it is the hammer of Spanish soldiers, reshaping what cannot speak for itself. You walk toward the palace, through streets to quiet, past homes whose doors remain shut even in daylight. A thin haze of ash hangs in the air, not thick, not choking, but enough to taste gold. Not the glittering kind that shone in the sun on dancers' wrists and priests' masks, but molten, poured into square molds. Stripped of shape, stripped of story, you reach the courtyard, and there it is, a pile, no, a mound of gold ornaments, jewelry, sacred emblems, gathered like fallen fruit, broken from meaning. A feathered breastplate, gifted in friendship. A sun disk once hung in a temple, warm with chants. Tiny bells that once adorned children during naming rituals. All of it melted, transformed into silent bricks. You step closer. The gold glows with unnatural heat, even as the air cools. It no longer sings. It no longer remembers. You close your eyes, and you hear the voices that once shaped it. The elder who carved a spiral into a pendant to protect his grandson's sleep. The artisan who inlaid turquoise into a crown and whispered blessings into each stone. The mother who offered her necklace to the temple in exchange for healing. Gone, 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 gone in their place. Currency, a cold, yellow silence. Quartz watches from a distance, his eyes calculating. To him, this is not loss. It is progress. He does not understand that gold in this place was not wealth. It was language. Now, the city falls mute. In the markets, few speak above a whisper. What use are songs when the gods no longer wear their faces? You wander to the edge of the artisan's quarter. There, a boy crouches beside a shattered mask. He holds one half in each hand. He does not cry. He simply presses them together, over and over, as if hoping they will remember how to be whole. Nearby, a weaver unwinds a tapestry she had once hoped to sell. Its colors are still bright, jaguar, yellow, serpent green, but her fingers unravel it thread by thread. What good are stories, she murmurs, when no one listens? You walk on, past the temples. The great sculptures of gods stand still, their eyes carved wide open, their mouths closed. The people have stopped bringing offerings, not because they no longer believe, but because the gold is gone, and with it. The voices at dusk. You stand near the canal, where a group of elders sit in a circle. They speak not with anger, but with memory. One tells of the night she first saw the emperor's headdress shimmer under moonlight, how it moved like water. Another recalls the gift her grandfather gave her on her naming day, a ring of gold shaped like a maize sprout. Each story ends in silence, as if the air itself mourns the quiet. You look to the water. The lake no longer reflects the city. The ripples have grown. The surface stirs, not with wind, but with unrest. Some whisper of rebellion, of rising, of blood for blood. But others, they wait, because something deeper has been taken. Not land, not food, not even lives, but meaning, and that is harder to reclaim. You walk now into a quiet chamber, once a music hall. Its walls still bear carvings of dancers, flutists, children. In the center, a single musician sits, cradling a clay flute. He plays not for joy, not for ceremony, just for memory. The notes are soft, unsteady, but real. You sit with him, you close your eyes, and for a moment, just a moment, the gold speaks again. Not through shape, not through fire, but through feeling. The weight of it, the warmth, the echoes it held. You remember now, the first time you touched a pendant carved in the shape of a hummingbird, the way it pulsed like a heartbeat in your palm, how you held it to your chest, and dreamed you open your eyes. The musician finishes. He does not bow. He simply leaves the flute on the floor. It is cracked, but still whole enough to sing you. Leave the chamber as stars begin to rise. Above they shimmer, quiet, distant, watching, not cold, just far, like ancestors leaning over your shoulder, too old to interfere. You walk through the golden haze of memory. Each step echoes, not loud, but sure, and you remember. Even when stories are stripped from shape, even when voices are silenced, even when meaning is melted down into bars, memory remains. It lives in the spaces between words, in the hands of the boy holding broken masks, in the unraveling of the weaver's threads, in the breath between each note of a cracked flute. You lie down by the lake again. The air smells of stone and smoke. The gold no longer glitters, but the stars still do, and beneath your breath, you whisper, you are more than your gifts. The gods do not answer, but they listen, and so do the shadows, and so does the lake. The sun rises behind a curtain of mist. Its light does not pierce. It drips like honey down the side of the sky. Gentle, hesitant. You sit near the steps of a forgotten shrine. Its stones are worn smooth from centuries of devotion. But now, they are cold. The air is heavy with expectation. But it is not joy. It is the waiting that follows disappointment. For years, the priests had whispered of his return. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, god of learning, of wind, of renewal. He, who left long ago, walking east into the sea, wrapped in light. He who promised to come again, when the time was right, and when the white sails touched the horizon. Many thought it was him. You remember it, the way the people gathered near the causeways, the hush that fell when the first Spaniards stepped onto the stones, the murmurs, he has returned. You saw it in their eyes, reverence, even in Moctezuma's, especially in his. He welcomed courts not as a conqueror, but as a guest touched by godhood. He offered flowers, he offered gold, he offered trust, but trust is not always returned, and gods do not melt sacred offerings into bricks. Now, weeks have passed, or was it months? Time drifts differently when hope unravels. You walk through the sacred district. You pass temples once scented with copal and marigold. They are quiet now. Unkept feathers hang limp on altar poles. Offerings lie untouched. Even the dogs sleep beside the steps without fear of reprimand. The people still believe in gods, but they no longer look to the east. Not now. You pause beside a broken sculpture, a serpent's head, carved in volcanic stone, its fangs dulled by time. You touch its surface. It is warm beneath the morning light, not alive, but not forgotten, nearby. A young boy gathers fallen leaves into a basket. He hums softly, a melody taught by someone who is no longer here. He glances at you. Why didn't he come? He asks. His voice is small, but the question is not. You do not answer, because you do not know, because the silence that followed his absence speaks louder than prophecy. Perhaps he did come, and we didn't recognize him, or perhaps he saw what had become of the world, and chose not to stay. You walk with the boy to the water's edge. He drops the leaves into the lake, one by one. Each leaf sinks slowly, each one a question at the palace. Moctezuma no longer gives speeches. His voice, once deep and clear, has grown hollow. Some say he talks only to the gods now. Others say he talks to no one at all. A priest stands outside his chamber each morning, offering chants into the wind, but the wind does not answer. You remember the first time you saw the emperor enter the temple barefoot, clothed only in white cotton, his arms lifted to the east. He prayed for clarity. He prayed for strength. Now, he watches the courtyard from behind carved screens. He speaks in fragments. He forgets the names of cities he once ruled. You walk through the streets, past murals that tell stories older than fire. The birth of the fifth sun, the battle of the jaguar and the eagle, the gift of maize by the gods. Their colors are still bright, but the people no longer stop to admire them. They walk quickly now, eyes low, breaths short. The Spanish demand more each day. Food, labor, allegiance. But what the people cannot give is belief. Not anymore, that they keep for themselves. Quietly you climb the steps of a minor temple, one not yet defaced at the top. You see the whole valley stretched before you, mountains in every direction, the lake shimmering in the soft light, canoes drifting like petals, and there, at the very edge of the city, you see smoke. A village burns. You close your eyes. You pretend. It is morning mist. A woman arrives behind you. She carries a small bundle, cloth wrapped in embroidered thread. Inside, a carved figurine, Quetzalcoatl, with his serpent body and human face. She places it gently on the altar, surrounded by crushed flower petals. She lights a candle, not for hope, not for return, but for memory. "I don't think he's coming," she says softly. You say nothing, because she doesn't need agreement. Only company. She watches the flame for a long time, then turns, leaving the figure behind. You sit with it. You look into its carved eyes. Do gods feel shame? Do they turn away when belief becomes pain? Do they forget, or do they wait for us to remember how to call them properly? The sun climbs higher. Its warmth touches the stone. The wind picks up, soft, uncertain, and still. No feathers fall. You descend the steps and return to the heart of the city. There, a group of elders chant in the old tongue, not to summon, not to beg, but to remind. Their words wrap around you like a blanket. We were not always waiting. We were once walking beside the gods. You lie down beneath a fig tree. The earth is warm beneath your back. You watch the clouds drift overhead. One of them looks like a serpent. For a moment, your heart stirs, but it passes. The sky does not open. The god does not return, and still you breathe. Not for him, not for the priests, but for the people, for the stories, for the small carved figure sitting in quiet light atop a forgotten altar. You breathe in, you breathe out. The gods may forget, but the people do not, and that, tonight, is enough. You are standing beneath a darkened sky. Not night, not quite, but the moon is hidden. The stars have dimmed. The sky feels heavy, like a roof sagging under the weight of unspoken grief. The streets of Tenochtitlan are hushed, not the quiet of sleep, but of waiting, of fear held like breath behind closed teeth. You move through the shadows, your steps light as falling ash. The canals stretch out like black veins through the city, the water still and watching. No song drifts from the gardens, no laughter from the courtyards, only the soft creak of wooden wheels and the rustle of armor. Something is about to end. You pass the palace. The once vibrant flags have been taken down, the doorways guarded by men with drawn faces and pale skin. The Spanish are leaving, not by choice, not in triumph. They carry gold wrapped in blood-soaked cloth. They carry fear. They carry silence. It began 2 nights ago. A fire, a stone, a scream. The people had seen enough. Their gods desecrated, their children sick, their gold melted into greed. They rose, not all at once, not with speeches, but with fire in the throat and sorrow in the hands. Stones thrown, doors barred, torches lifted. You see it now, the aftermath. A city turned red with its own defiance. Moctezuma. You heard he stood before the crowd, high on the palace terrace, calling for calm. But the words came too late. A stone struck him. Or maybe it was something heavier. Betrayal, confusion, heartbreak. He fell back into the arms of men who did not speak his language, and within days he was gone. Some say he died from the wound, others from silence. You walk now by the edge of the great causeway. The air smells of wet stone, and smouldering wood courts gathers his men here. You see them pale, trembling, hunched under the weight of what they carry. Their armor no longer gleams. Their eyes no longer shine. Each one bears a pack, but not All carry gold. Some carry wounds. Some carry shame. A few carry nothing at all. And still they march. Not yet. Soon, you slip into the shadows beneath an overhang. From here, you see the canoes gathering across the lake. The Mexican warriors, faces painted, spears ready, wait in silence. They know what is coming. So do you. This is not conquest. This is escape. You feel the air grow colder. The wind shifts. The gods do not speak, but they watch. At midnight, it begins. The Spanish move like ghosts, silent, barefoot, breathing through their teeth. They carry what they can. Gold clinks beneath their cloaks. Swords hang heavy. Horses snort. A baby whimpers. Someone coughs, and then a cry, sharp, ragged, human, then another, and another. The first arrows fly before you can turn your head. The lake erupts. In screams, canoes strike the sides of the causeway. Spears are thrown. Stones hurled from rooftops. Men fall into the water, their armor pulling them down like guilt. You stay still. Your heart is loud in your chest, but your feet do not move. This is not your fight. This is a memory. A night already. Written, but still, it breaks you. You see faces you do not know, twisted in pain, in fear, in disbelief. A soldier clutches the arm of a young boy, too late. They disappear beneath the water. Another screams a name once, twice before the lake silences him. The gold drags them down. They stuff their bags, their boots, even their mouths. They could not bear to leave it. Now it drowns them, you turn away. The causeway is slick with blood and lake water. The sky does not lighten. The stars do not guide. And still, they flee. Courts rides at the front, his face carved from stone. He does not look back. Behind him, bodies fall with the sound of dreams shattering. Some scream, others are silent. You walk alongside them, untouched. You are a shadow now, a witness stopped by dawn. It is over. The Spanish have scattered. Some survived. Many did not. The lake has claimed what was never freely given. You stand at the water's edge. The sun rises slow, thick with haze. Feathers float on the surface. And gold, so much gold, glinting in the morning light. Shapeless, heavy, useless. You crouch, reach into the water. Your hand closes around a disc, once a sun. Now a ruin, you lift it, feel its weight. It is cold and silent. You let it fall. The lake swallows it without sound. Behind you, a woman keens softly. She walks along the edge, singing the names of the dead, not the conquerors. Not the warriors, but the children, the elders, the innocent. Her voice is cracked, but steady. You listen. You lie down in the reeds, your body curved to the shape of the earth. The sky is pale, the lake is still again. And in that stillness, grief, yes, but also release, not victory, not justice, only truth, the kind that settles. In your bones and stays, you close your eyes. You feel the smoke, you feel the ash, you feel the weight of memory pressing gently, like a palm against your heart, and you whisper, to no one, or maybe to everyone, we remember. La noche triste, the night of sorrows, and beyond it, still more to come. But for now, only the quiet, only the water, only the wind brushing the feathers that float between the stars and the city that dreamed too long. The city is quieter now, not the silence of reverence, but of things undone. You walk past the steps of the Templo Mayor. Its once vibrant murals are weathered, streaked by rain and smoke. The colors fade where fire has touched stone. And though the temple still stands, it no longer hums with sacred rhythm. You pause at the base of the stairs. You feel the grooves worn by centuries of footsteps, barefoot pilgrims, painted warriors, kings crowned under starlight. But no one climbs them today. Even the priests have left. You lift your eyes to the top. The altar is dark, the braziers cold, and then you hear it. A cry, not a shout, not a chant. A soft, broken sound. Not meant for crowds, not meant for ceremony. A cry meant for no one, and heard only by stone. You move slowly, step by step. The air grows thinner as you climb. Not with altitude, but with memory. Each level of the temple holds something. A story, a name, a spirit. You reach the summit. There, between two worn altars, sits a man, old, barefoot, wrapped in thin cotton, soaked by morning dew. He holds a bowl in his lap. It is filled with flowers, wilted but still fragrant marigold. Chimpas chill, his hands tremble. He does not speak, but his cry continues. It comes not from his mouth, but from his chest, from a place deeper than voice. A cry that has traveled through years, through fire, through ruin. You sit beside him saying nothing. The city below stretches out like a wounded bird, beautiful still, but clipped. The canals shimmer in the sunlight, but fewer canoes drift now. Fewer songs echo from their banks. You breathe in. The scent of incense still lingers in the cracks of the altar. It clings to the stone like memory. You reach forward and light a small wick. The flame flickers. In the wind, weak but alive. The old man watches you. His eyes are cloudy but deep, like they've seen too many endings. He gestures toward the bowl. You take a flower, you place it at the altar, and together, in silence, you remember the first time you saw the temple shine at dawn, the way its shadow stretched across the plaza like the wings of an eagle. You remember the festivals, the drums that pounded through your chest like a second heart, the dancers, their feet never touching ground, the chants so ancient they bent time, and now, only wind, only smoke, only the cry dot below. A group of children plays in the ruins of a market stall. They laugh, unaware of the blood once spilled beneath their feet, unaware of the gold once stolen, the gods once dishonored. Their joy is not ignorance, it is resistance. They do not cry, they sing. You watch them, you smile, and the cry softens. The old man reaches into his robe and pulls out a tiny flute. It is cracked. He brings it to his lips. A single note, high, clear, and aching. The sound cuts through the air like light through mist. You close your eyes. You see the temple as it once was, whole, bright, alive. You see the gods standing tall. You see the people kneeling in joy, not fear. You see Moctezuma not as the broken man they whisper about now, but as he once stood, clothed in jade, crowned by the sun. You hear the music rise, flutes, drums, chants. You hear the footfalls of dancers circling the altar. You feel the heat of the sun as it passes directly overhead. For a moment, it returns, just for a breath. Then the wind shifts, the vision fades. You open your eyes, the flute is silent. The old man has lowered it. He smiles, just once, and then, without a word, he rises. He leaves the bowl, the flute, the cry, and he disappears into the stone. You remain. The city below breathes on, fractured but breathing. A woman walks along the canal, scattering. seeds into the water. A child carries a woven basket filled with maize. A young man kneels before a shattered sculpture and presses his forehead to its base. These are not rituals. These are memories made visible. These are stories rewritten in gestures, too small for conquerors to notice. You rise from the altar. You place your hand on the warm stone, and you whisper, "We are still here." Not loud, not bold, but true. The wind carries your words down the steps, through the plaza, across the lake. They settle into cracks. They drift into dreams, and somewhere, far beyond the city, where the mountains hold the sun as it sleeps, the gods listen. They do not answer, they do not appear, but they listen, and sometimes listening is enough. You descend slowly, your feet touching each step like a blessing. The Templo Mayor does not shine, but it stands. You walk back through the narrow alleys, past walls painted with handprints, past women weaving with fingers that remember more than their mouths can say. You lie down near a garden. The soil is soft. A bird sings nearby. It does not sing for gods. It does not sing for empires. It sings because it must. You close your eyes. The cry behind the temple has ended, but the echo remains, and in that echo, a promise. You wake to the clang of metal, not the clean ring of a craftsman's hammer, not the ceremonial chime of sacred bells. This is something colder, harder. You open your eyes. The sky is cloudless, painted in the pale blue of early morning, but the light feels strange, like it's passing through smoke you cannot see. You rise slowly and walk through the streets. They feel different beneath your feet. The stones are cleaner, somehow, but not in a holy way. You reach the edge of the square, and there they are, soldiers in rows, faces blank as river stones. They move like clock hands, not fast, not slow, just relentless. Steel glints on their bodies. Their weapons are long, narrow, sharp. You have never seen this many before. Their banners flap in the wind, bearing crests of a faraway land, colors that mean nothing here. They speak in harsh syllables. Their words are square, heavy, not meant for song. You do not understand them, but you understand their rhythm, the rhythm of command, of order, of control. You step back into the shadow of a doorway. From there, you watch a man kneel before one of them, offering fruit, warm tortillas, water in a clay bowl. The soldier accepts the food, then gestures to others follow. They enter the man's home without asking. You don't see what happens inside, but when they emerge, the man does not move. He simply sits, eyes downcast, his offering bowl now cracked in half. You feel a knot tighten inside you. This is not war. Not yet. It is occupation, the slow, quiet theft of meaning, and its weapon is not always the blade. Sometimes it is the voice. A new language begins to spread, not in poems, but in orders, not in lullabies, but in laws. You hear it in the school, where children are told to forget the old names. You see it in the market, where signs are repainted with foreign script. You feel it in your own mouth, when the old words feel dusty, and the new ones feel like stones you're not ready to swallow. You walk past the palace. A flag flies now above its highest balcony. It is not your flag, but it moves in the wind, as if it belongs down inside. A council gathers, half native, half not. The Spaniards sit with straight backs and iron glances. The others bow their heads, not out of reverence, but weariness. You remember when decisions were made with offerings, when questions were answered with dreams and constellations. Now, they are answered with signatures, ink and seal, the language of paper and pen, another kind of steel. You drift through the alleyways. A woman weeps over a broken matete, her grinding stone cracked in two. Her son stands beside her, confused. She speaks to him in the old tongue. He answers in the new one. He does not mean to hurt her, but still, she, flinches, not at the words, at their emptiness, at how quickly they arrive, and how deeply they cut. You pass a courtyard where boys once practiced the ritual ball game. Now they carry wooden crosses, stack bricks, repeat catechisms in a voice that doesn't quite fit in their throats. You sit beneath a tree and listen. A friar nearby is teaching the story of another god, one with open hands, bleeding palms, a crown of thorns. The children nod, but they look past him. Their eyes drift to the hills, to the lake, to the stone temples beyond the reed walls. They hear his words, but something deeper still sings in their chests. You wonder if they will remember it, years from now, in the hush. Between prayers, you rise and follow a group of villagers carrying baskets toward the edge of the city. They pass a new church being built. Stone from broken temples repurposed, reshaped. One man pauses. He places his hand against a familiar carving now wedged between foreign arches. It once belonged to a rain god. Now it frames the entrance to the chapel. He does not cry. He does not pray. He simply whispers, "I still see you," and moves on. You sit beside the unfinished wall. You touch the old glyphs, chipped and faint, and you whisper too, "I still hear you," because the gods are not gone, only sleeping, buried beneath. The new language, waiting to rise in silence. You walk to the lake. The canoes still drift, though fewer now. Fishermen speak in both tongues. Their nets are mended with foreign thread, but their rhythm, their song is still the old one. The wind carries there. Voices like birds between centuries. You lie down in the reeds. You feel the sun on your face. You hear the clang of metal. Far off, it does not frighten you anymore. It exhausts you. You close your eyes in your dreams. The old words return. They do not shout. They do not weep. They simply wait, like seeds beneath a paved road. One day they will bloom again. And when they do, it will not be loud. It will not be in battle. It will be in a lullaby, in a whispered blessing, in a child naming the stars, not in Spanish, but in the tongue of their grandmother. You smile in your sleep, because even steel rusts. But language, true language, it only rests, and tonight it dreams with you. You are walking along the water's edge. The sun is low, a soft orange coin slipping behind the hills. Its light spreads across the lake like paint brushed by a tired hand. The chinampas still float, thin gardens, woven from lake and labor. They drift silently, tethered to roots and will. You see the cornstalks, tall and still proud, squash blossoms open to the falling light, and marigolds, always marigolds, bending their golden heads to the wind. But there are fewer now, fewer hands to tend them, fewer songs to guide their growth, fewer hearts to kneel and whisper thanks to the soil. You step into a canoe tied with frayed rope to a cracked post. It wobbles gently as you sit, as if unsure whether to carry you or let you drift. You dip the paddle into the water. The ripples open softly, carrying your small vessel forward, toward the green islands that were once called miraculous. You remember when the chinampas were full, bursting with color, with laughter, with the rustle of hands pulling up sweet herbs at dawn, the scent of damp soil, the breath of the wind coming through the reeds like a lullaby. You close your eyes and listen. Some of it is still there, but the silence now carries different things. The sound of a missing voice, the echo of a name no longer spoken, the absence of sandals on wet wood, of old men humming songs as they worked. You pass an empty patch, its soil dry, its stalks yellowed. No one came to water it, not this week, not last. You drift past more islands, some thriving still, tended by calloused hands and stubborn hope, others abandoned, slowly being swallowed by the lake that once gave them life. And then, there it is, a single flower, bright red, standing tall in the center of a chinampa where everything else has wilted. A survivor, you steer toward it. The canoe brushes gently against the soft earth, and you step out. The soil is spongy beneath your feet, still breathing, still listening. You kneel. The flower bends slightly in the breeze, as if greeting you. You do not know its name. You only know that it shouldn't still be here, but it is, and that alone feels sacred. You reach out and gently touch its stem, warm, alive. It leans into your fingers, not out of weakness, but trust. You feel your eyes begin to sting, not from smoke, not from dust, but from memory. You remember a grandmother kneeling just like this, her fingers buried in black soil, her song drifting up to the gods like steam. You remember the day she placed a blossom behind your ear and told you, as long as we grow things, we are not dead. You hold those words now like a seed in your mouth, small, powerful. The wind rises across the water. It carries the scent of blossoms, but also of ash. On the far shore, you see smoke rising. Another temple torn down. Another house claimed. Another god made into rubble. But here, the flower still stands. You pluck it gently, not to keep, but to carry, to remember. You return to the canoe. You paddle through the golden light, the flower resting in your lap. On the bank, a child waits with a basket of empty jars. You recognize her, the granddaughter of a farmer who once grew chilies in the sun. She smiles at you, shy but steady. You hand her the flower. She holds it to her heart, then runs. You watch her go, her bare feet slapping stone, her braids swinging like a pendulum of possibility. And you feel it then, not victory, not relief, but endurance. That quiet, stubborn heartbeat beneath sorrow. You walk along the causeway. Women bend at the water's edge, washing clothes, murmuring to each other between breaths. One of them sings, not loudly, but with purpose. The words are old, the melody older. It is a song for seeds, a song for those who plant what they will never see grow. You follow it, past the weaver's drying cloth in the evening sun, past the boy painting glyphs in the dirt with his finger, past the old man carving new oars from storm-felled trees. You stop at a garden carved into the side of a stone wall. It is small, tended with care, and in its center another flower, not red. This one is blue, blue as the sky before rain, blue as painted robes on a day of offering. You kneel. You do not speak, but something inside you says, we are still planting, even now, even after the gods have been pulled down, even after the altars have been repainted, even after the names have been twisted into foreign shapes. The flowers still grow, not because of permission, but because they must, because they were born of water, sun, and grief. and none of those things have left. You lie down beside the garden. The earth holds you gently, not to bury, but to cradle. The stars begin to appear, slowly, cautiously, as if asking permission, as if waiting to be remembered. You whisper their names in the old tongue. Not all of them, but enough. And in the garden beside you, the petals shiver. You breathe in, you smell damp earth, crushed leaves, the faint sweetness of May's dot, and then you sleep. The dreams come softly. A woman braiding your hair, a man stirring clay with his hands, a child walking barefoot through a row of blossoms, humming a song not yet written. They do not speak. They simply move, and in their movement, they promise. The garden remains, even if no one writes it down, even if no one says the names, even if no one tells the stories right. It remains in the seed, in the soil, in the last flower, blooming alone, but not unseen. Night falls like a slow curtain, not sudden, but steady, soft at first. Then total dot, you are walking through the music house, or what remains of it. The house of songs was once the heart of Tenochtitlan's soul. Here, the flutists learnt their breath, and the singers carved stories into air. Here, drums echoed like thunder through the blood, and children danced until stars blinked down in approval. But tonight, there is no music, only ashdot, only smoke. You step over broken beams, the wood charred to a black softness. The roof has collapsed in one corner, where the fire burned hottest. Feathers lie scattered in the dust, singed at their tips, blue, green, red. Each one wants a voice. Now, just a whisper, the people say, the fire came quickly. The Spaniards hadn't planned it. It was an accident, maybe, or maybe not. A torch dropped too close to woven banners. Or perhaps a lesson. You breathe in. The scent still lingers. Cedar, burnt cloth. The last exhale of 1,000 songs. You walk slowly through the rubble. Each step feels like walking through a graveyard of air. You do not cry, you listen, because somewhere beneath the ruin, the echoes remain. You kneel near a blackened xylophone. Its keys have cracked in the heat, but one still rings. You tap it gently, a note clear, lonely, alive. It hovers in the space, like a moth looking for its flame. You remember the ceremonies held here. Children in rows, their faces painted in yellow. Clay, the masters teaching them rhythm by heartbeat, melody by memory. You remember the way the sound filled your chest, not like noise, but like purpose. And now the masters are gone. Some fled, some vanished into the smoke. But the rhythm, it hasn't stopped. You hear it, a faint tapping. You follow the sound. Through a narrow corridor choked with soot and shadow. At the end, a figure, a young girl, seated cross-legged on the ground. Her hands move in slow rhythm on a drum made from an overturned bowl. She doesn't look up. Her eyes are closed. She's singing. You can barely hear it. Her voice is thin, just a thread of breath over fire-cooled stone. But it's real, a lullaby. The kind sung by mothers too tired to sing. The kind that stays even when the walls fall. You sit with her. You do not speak. You only breathe in rhythm. With her, with the drum, with the memory of music that once lit this house from within. She finishes the song. She opens her eyes. They are not frightened. They are not empty. They are full of ash and stars. I thought I'd be alone, she says. You shake your head. No. One ever truly is, you whisper. She smiles, small, but real. Then she gathers her bowl, her drumstick carved from a bone, and walks into the night. You remain. The walls still smell of heat, but the air has cooled. You touch the floor, tracing a spiral carved long ago into the stone. It is still warm, not from fire. From memory, the House of Songs was more than walls. It was breath, it was feet on stone. It was stories told in rhythm. And those things cannot be burned. You rise and walk to the edge of the ruins. Outside, the plaza flickers with torchlight people. Gather not in protest, not in rage, in mourning, but not the silent kind. They carry instruments, cracked flutes, half-drums, rattles made from broken gourds, and they play badly at first. Out of tune, out of step, but not out of heart. A boy begins to dance, his feet bare, his limbs unsure. An elder joins him, her steps deliberate. Slow, they move in a circle, and the circle grows. You step into it, you raise your hand and clap once. Sharp, steady dot, another joins, and another, and the rhythm returns. Not the same rhythm, something new, made from ruin, made from grief, but no less sacred, above you. The stars pulse like drumbeats in the sky. You tilt your head back and let their silence settle into your chest. Then you sing. You don't know the words, but your body remembers the tone, and that's enough. Voices rise around you. Some broken, some strong dot, none ashamed, because the House of Songs is not gone. It has simply moved into the mouths of the morning, into the feet of the dancers, into the firelight that warms, even now, the cracked bones of a broken city. You stay there for hours, until the torches burn low, until the songs blend into dreams, until the youngest among you falls asleep mid-step and is caught by a stranger's arms. You lie down on the edge of the plaza. The earth is cool now. The stars have softened, and somewhere behind your closed eyes, the melody continues. Not loud, not proud, but real. And you know tomorrow they will try again to erase it. They will silence the teachers, burn the scripts, ban the dancers, but still, someone will sing. Maybe in a garden, maybe in the shadow of a church, maybe in their sleep. But the fire will not win, because this fire, the one that lives in the House of Songs, is not the kind that destroys. It is the kind that warms, the kind that waits, until someone dares to sing again. And tonight, you did. The morning begins with quiet labor. No fanfare, no horn, just the sound of hands moving stone. You are walking through what was once the ceremonial plaza. Dust rises with each step, curling like ghosts around your ankles. Men and women lift rubble, one piece at a time. Not soldiers, not priests, people. Their backs are bent, their eyes focused, their mouths say little, but their hands speak clearly. You pause beside a woman carrying bricks in a woven sling across her shoulder. Her feet are calloused, her fingers cracked. She rests for a moment beside you and says, "We build again." That is all. Then she moves. On you watch her walk toward what was once a school for scribes. The walls had collapsed during a storm, or maybe during a siege. No one remembers anymore. What matters now is that it stands again, slowly, stone by stone. You walk through the city and find more scenes like this. A boy uses crushed charcoal to redraw a mural on a temple base. He doesn't look older than 10. He hums as he works. The figures he paints are familiar. Not saints, not angels, not jaguar, eagle, maze. Old gods. Drawn in secret 2 streets away, someone builds a new altar inside the hollow of a broken tree. Small, hidden. 3 candles, a bowl of water, a bundle of feathers tied with red string. You kneel, you add a seed from your pocket. A gift, not much, but enough. The air shifts, not with wind, but with presence. Something watches, something approves. You rise and continue in the square near the market. Children are helping to repaint the walls of a shrine. They do not follow the new rules. Their brushstrokes are crooked, joyful. One paints a serpent curled around a sun. Another, a rain cloud shaped like a face. Their laughter is soft, careful but real. A man watches them from a distance, arms crossed. You expect him to shout. He doesn't. He nods once, turns away. There are guards, of course. They patrol the streets in pairs, carrying foreign flags stitched into their sleeves. They pause when they see the people working. Sometimes they say something, sometimes they don't, but they always move on, because what is rebuilding, really? It doesn't look like rebellion. Not at first. It looks like sweeping dust from a floor, stacking bricks, tying rope. But the truth is, every act of rebuilding is an act of remembering, and every memory is a thread, pulling the old world closer to the surface. You sit beside a wall being patched with stone and earth. A woman sings softly as she mixes the mortar. You recognize the tune, a funeral chant, but her voice is not mournful. It's tender, precise, determined. You ask her why she sings for the dead while building something new. She smiles. We build on their bones. It is polite to let them know. And you understand, this is not just labor, it's conversation. You walk toward the Templo Mayor, or what remains of it. The Spaniards have pulled down the highest altar. In its place, the foundation for a church. But the stones remain, scattered, piled, not forgotten. You climb them slowly. Your hands brush carvings, half buried in soil. A feather here, a glyph there. A story still breathing beneath the dust at the top. Someone has placed 3 small tokens, a piece of obsidian, a maize cob, a strip of woven cloth. Offerings, not for gods perhaps, for memory. You sit there a while. The wind moves across the city like a lullaby. You close your eyes, and you see them, not the invaders, the others, the ones still here. The ones who wake early and light fires before sunrise. The ones who paint when no one is watching. The ones who speak the old words under their breath, like spells against forgetting. You see a healer crushing herbs with a broken pestle, whispering prayers to Tulok as she works. You see a father teaching his daughter how to plant in rows, singing the names of the elements with each motion. You see a woman carving a flute from bone, not to sell, just to play when no one else can hear. These are not grand acts. They are quiet, but they are stronger than fire, stronger than steel. Because while temples fall and gods are renamed, the people endure in customs, in breath, in rebuilding. You descend from the stones and walk toward the lake. The chinampas still drift. Not as many, not as full, but enough. A child rows past in a canoe filled with baskets. He waves. You wave back in his eyes. Not sorrow, not defiance, wonder, the kind that builds. Futures out of fragments. You reach the shore and sit beneath a tree. Its roots stretch deep, older than memory. You press your hand to its bark. It feels warm. You close your eyes, and you say the names of The cities that came before: Texcoco, Tlacopan, Cholula, Tenochtitlan. You say them aloud, gently, one by one, not for anyone to hear, but for the stones, for the roots, for yourself. The city will never be what it was. That truth sits in your chest like a stone, but it will not be nothing. It cannot, not while hands still lift bricks, not while songs still echo in twilight, not while a single child learns the word for water in the old tongue and uses it to bless a seed. You lie back in the grass. The sky is pink now, laced with orange dot. Evening falls with kindness tonight. You hear footsteps pass, laughter. Someone begins to drum slowly, steadily, softly, and somewhere a new wall rises. A new floor is swept. A new chant is whispered. The ashes are not gone, but neither is the fire. The wind moves slowly this morning, not with the urgency of storm, not with the mischief of spring. Just slow, like someone searching for something they used to know. You sit beneath a low wall of warm stone. The air is clean to clean. Not a single drum echoes. Not a single chant lingers on the breeze. Just silence. And wind, you watch it pass through the trees, stirring the leaves without conviction, as if it no longer remembers why it came. You close your eyes, dart in the distance. Someone calls out in the new tongue. You recognize the rhythm, but not the shape. The word bounces off the walls like a stranger. You've heard it more often lately. The old language grows quiet, not because it is broken, but because fewer lips remember how to shape it, and so the wind forgets. It used to carry names like songs, names of gods, of emperors, of dancers who once bled into the earth for love, of stars. Now it carries dust. You rise and walk toward the city's heart. The stones are cleaner, straighter. Someone has reshaped the plaza. Where once stood the altar of sacrifice, there is now a fountain. The water is cold and clear, but you see no reflection in it, just light. You kneel beside it. A woman fills her jar. She wears cloth like the others now. Her earrings are small, not turquoise, not bone. Still, when she turns, you see the mark tattooed on her shoulder, a spiral, faint, faded, but there. She nods. You nod. No words are needed. Further on, you pass the edge of the old temple grounds. A wall has been built here, wide, white, and blank. It faces east. At sunrise, the priests bless it with incense, but there are no carvings, no glyphs, only shadow. You step close to it, place your palm flat against the stone, and you whisper a name, not your own. Not a word you use anymore. A name you once carried in childhood, when the gods still walked among the clouds, and the wind spoke clearly. You wait. The stone says nothing, but a breeze curls round your fingers. Soft, warm, familiar. You smile down the avenue. Children play. Their games are new. Tag, chase, chant, and clap. But every now and then, you catch an old shape in their rhyme. A word, a step, a breath held just a second too long. Remnants, threads, enough to stitch a memory into the day. You pass a garden blooming. In a courtyard, someone has planted sempersuckle, bright, sun-colored, wild. Their scent brushes your cheek like a grandmother's kiss. You stop and kneel, pluck a single petal, place it on your tongue. It tastes like dusk, like river stones, like goodbye. You rise and keep walking. At the lake, the water laps gently. The chinampas are fewer. Some have been reclaimed by weeds. Others now bear crops foreign to these waters. But one just offshore still grows maize. You see the golden stalks waving, and in their movement, the wind stirs again, not wildly, not fully, but something shifts, as if remembering you lie on the bank, the coolness of the grass beneath your spine, and you breathe. The clouds drift overhead, slow as dreams. You watch them change shapes, a serpent, a jaguar, a sail dot, then nothing, just sky. You do not grieve, not anymore. What has passed cannot be, pulled back by tears, only by planting, only by remembering, only by speaking the names out loud. Even if no one answers, you close your eyes and you whisper them again, the names of gods, of places, of rivers that no longer run, and those that still do. You do not shout, you do not plead, you simply offer, and the wind, after a long pause, offers something back, a single word, carried not in sound, but in stillness. It's a name you do not recognize, but it feels like home, and that is enough. You stand, you walk back through the city, past the new church, the new school, the new flag, but you see beneath them, you see what endures, a song scratched into stone at the base of a stair, a flute buried beneath a garden, a grandmother telling a story she pretends she's forgotten. You reach the edge of the city just as dusk falls. The sun slips behind the mountains, leaving behind that color you can never quite name between sorrow and gold. You kneel once more, and this time you place your hand against the earth, not to plant, not to pray, just to remember what it feels like to be held by something older than time. The ground is warm, alive, still listening, and as the stars appear, soft and unsure, you say goodbye, not with a bow, not with tears, just a breath, one long, gentle breath, and with it the wind turns once more. For just a moment it remembers, and so do you. Good night,